Call this session, board to meeting, or yes. Please turn off all your cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, I'd like to call an executive session to discuss personnel matters. We'll be right back.
You need somebody to second.
I'll make a motion, or second that.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. We'll be right back. I'd like to make a motion to enter back into normal session,
I'll second it.
regular session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Want me to read it?
Sure.
New business, appointments, recommended motions, appointment Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Staff Development intern. The recommended motion that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent Kelly Morgan LaRosa, who is pending certification as a school district leader, be appointed as Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Staff Development intern effective August 13th, 2013 and ending January 31st, 2014. Salary is prorated at $56,220 annually.
I'll second it.
Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
You have to say motion. Did everybody say? Did everybody
Yes.
go? Kathy, you're okay? Okay.
Motion passed.
Appoint elementary teacher. The recommended motion that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Morgan Prentice, who is initially certified in students with disabilities, B2 and 1 through 6, in childhood education, B2 and 1 through 6, be appointed on probation as an elementary teacher effective September 1st, 2013, and ending August 31st, 2016. Salary is based upon ETA contract masters, step 1.
Second.
Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Morgan is here. She's been waiting a long time. Morgan, if you could just stand up for a minute, because it's hard to see you from here. I think it's important for them to all know you just got married this weekend, right?
Congratulations twice.
And so this is her husband, Ryan, sitting next to her, and we are honored that on your honeymoon, you're sitting here.
Wow, he knows that show her a good time.
So, welcome.
Appoint long-term substitute elementary teacher. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Ashley Mason, who is initially certified in childhood education, 1 to 6, be appointed as a long-term substitute elementary teacher effective September 1st, 2013 through approximately January 31st, 2014. Salary is based upon an ETA contract master's step 1.
Second.
Discussions? All in...
I'm sorry, do you need to know why this is a long-term supposition, or are you comfortable with the backup material?
I think...
You okay?
Yeah,
All right.
we're good with that after our discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, sorry.
That's okay.
Approve partial recall of PE teacher, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Amy Francisco, who is on the preferred eligibility list, is being returned to a .47 FTE position in the physical education tenure area effective September 1st, 2013. Salary is based upon an ETA contract master step 6.
Second.
Discussions?
I'd like to know where, what happened? Why is this coming back?
You know, we knew when we were making decisions on salary accesses in the spring, that so much of it would depend on students enrolling in the district, the change in the secondary schedule, how the kids' schedules fall out, who's being shared from one building to another one, and as it all worked out, what we knew for a fact is that we didn't want seventh graders in physical education with our older students that are 11 and 12. We knew that. And so to make sure that that didn't happen, we actually added back 2 sections, which is where this is falling.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Approve increase in hours, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Lori Cole, who is on the preferred eligibility list, is being increased from a .5 FTE to a .67 FTE on the LOTE tenure area effective September 1st, 2013. Salary is based upon an ETA contract master's step 16.
Second.
Discussions?
You want to elaborate a little bit?
Sure. We actually have a lot of students who want to take Spanish 3, so good for us. And we would have had 2 sections of Spanish 3, both at 31 or 32, which I just don't think is a good decision for us as a district. And so this will open up a 3rd section of Spanish 3, putting us at an average of 22 or 23, depending on who newly enrolls in Eden, and we're still working on that right now.
Okay, thank you.
So before, whenever she only had the 2 classes, it was 30?
31 and 33, which is really high.
Very high.
Yeah, I don't know that we could put that many seats in a room.
Yeah.
Any other discussions? All in favor? Aye.
The business report, we're going to have a tax rate presentation.
Oh, now we get to the fun stuff.
He's been waiting all day.
Okay, tax rates, what everyone loves to know, what we're actually going to be paying. Okay, tax levy. Actually, tax levy is to collect. So basically, tax levy is the total dollars our school district must collect to support our approved budget. And as everyone recalls, back in May, the voters did approve the budget of $25.7 million. From that, the estimated tax levy is 13.045. That's what's before you tonight. And so let's go over and talk a little bit about what that is. So if your tax levy, which is the total dollar amount, which was that $13 million, the tax rate is the amount charged per $1,000 of assessed value. So we're going to talk tonight a little bit about assessed value of your home, and then what the state says the market value is of your home. They're 2 different things. So, looking at that, what makes this even more complicated for tax levies? We are basically, for assessments, we're dealing with 5 towns right now that we actually have to deal with. So we're looking at Boston, Concord, Eden, Evans, and North Collins. So looking at all that, every town has different assessments for their homes. No 2 towns, generally speaking, are alike. So the state says, well, to round that off, what we have to do is put everyone on a level playing field. All school districts across the state are going to be on a level playing field. And how do they do that? With an equalization rate. And basically what that is, that equalization rate, it gets applied to your assessed value and makes it a market value. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, let me just talk a little bit about assessments. The assessed value is determined by the town assessor for each of the 5 towns. They report to us actually what the assessments are going to be for the whole town. So it's based on the market value for each property. They run their assessments at different times, so not every town assesses properties at the same time, just depends on the individual town. And the assessor has a primary role in ensuring the fairness of individual assessments. So there what you're actually seeing is for Boston, the assessed value for our school district is $109 million. Concord, $5.4 million. In Eden, which is the largest part of our district, $332 million. Evans, $47 million. And North Collins, $10 million, for a total of $504 million of assessed value. So again, when you look at the assessed value, the state says every assessment's different. We're going to equalize that and bring it over to a market value. So it's set by the New York State Office of Real Property Services, and ratio of total assessed value to market value. The individual towns They determine the assessed value. The state determines the market values with the equalization rate. And because equalization rates are municipal-wide measures, they're not intended to correct unfair individual assessments. What does that mean? Again, many people feel their assessments, their individual assessments are not necessarily fair. This has nothing to do with your individual assessments. This is just how they figure everyone's going to be paying their school taxes with the equalization rate. Okay, so what does that mean? When you're looking at assessed value, you're looking at market value. If it's at 100%, basically the state is saying you are perfect. You are just, your assessment is right on with what we see the market value is across the state. If it is less than 100%, what the state is saying is you're undervalued. Your assessments are undervalued as to what we think it actually is across the state. And if it's more than 100, that means you're overvalued. Basically in a nutshell. Okay, so looking at this, what has the state actually set for equalization rates for each of the towns? I know this is small print, so please bear with me. This is actually from the state website directly. And what you're seeing for Boston, they're saying that equalization rate is 99%. Concord, 46%. Eden, 66%. And finally, Evans and North Collins at 100. So really, what is the state saying with these numbers? For Boston, Concord, and Eden, the state is saying your assessments are lower than what they feel it actually should be. Not what we feel, it's just, but that's what the state's actually saying. But they're saying Evans and North Collins, they're right on the money. The assessments are exactly what the market value should be for those homes. So again,
I do have one little question.
Absolutely.
Some of the kids have Hamburg addresses. I mean, we cross over into Concord and
Some people have Boston addresses.
Boston and...
in Boston's accounted for here, we don't need to account for the Hamburg ones. And
That's fine. I was just...
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
but are they actually in town of Eden but Hamburg mailing addresses?
Yeah, that's what it is.
But they're actually in Eden?
There's property north of Eckerd, which is...
Is that it?
That's exactly it, yeah.
Okay, so, but they're actually still in Eden?
Yes.
So they pay Eden taxes but have a Hamburg address.
It's just for... So they're in the town of Eden with a Hamburg
Yeah, it's post
mailing
office.
address. How intriguing is that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to flip back and forth between this side and the next slide. So let's take a look at Concord on the left, Evans on the right. As I said, if you look back here, Concord, the state said it's an equalization rate of 46. So basically, what they're saying is a $100,000 home, and this is kind of what they're using across the board, a $100,000 home, with the equalization rate of 46%, they're really saying that's an assessment in the town of $46,000. Okay? But for Evans, they said the equalization rate's 100, so a $100,000 home is equal to a $100,000 assessed value. That's what they're saying. Okay. And again, why are equalization rates needed? In the previous slide, let me go back, Mrs. Jones on the right in Evans, with that assessed value of 100,000, if we didn't have an equalization rate and we just did assessed value, basically we pay more in taxes than Mrs. Smith. But the state says both properties are worth the exact same, and both properties should pay the same amount of taxes because they both have a market value of 100,000. So even though the assessments are different, the state's using that market value as the overall whole. So both should pay the equal amount of taxes. But if we just went by assessed value, Mrs. Jones on the right would pay more. Okay? That's basically what that's saying. So that equalization rate is meant to level that playing field and put everyone on that exact same basis of market value versus assessed. We're all used to seeing assessments for our homes. Okay, so this kind of boring, the formulas, but this is basically the formula they give us to actually figure it out. To fairly and equally distribute the tax levy, that $13 million, the levy needs to be in proportion to the total market value for each town. Again, not assessed value, but market value. So what we do is we estimate the total market value for each town, and that's the formula they actually use for it, and I'm going to actually show you a demonstration of that in real time in a minute. Okay, so this is the chart that we actually look at to figure out the tax rate. Now, if you look first of all on the bottom left, 19.287. That would be the tax rate for the coming year,
Can you just put your cursor on that so they can see where you are?
right here. Okay, 19.287. Last year was 19.010, so it's just slightly up. Okay, so let's go over this, and what actually does this mean? Most of this is fairly prescribed from the state. We have our 5 towns right here. Total assessed value provided by the towns. The equalization rates provided by the state. And that formula that I showed you is what the true market value basically is. So what you're seeing here, that 109 million with the 99% equalization rate, the state is saying that basically that assessment is slightly under what it should be. This is what it should be. Make sense? So now, what does that all equate to? When you take a look at this 110 and you keep going down, the total market value is 676. So to figure out how much each town should pay, you just basically take the 110 up here, divided by the 676 down here, you get your 16%. So basically Boston should be paying 16% of the taxes. I'm rounding just for simplicity. So, and you go right on down the line. 11 million here of the 676 is just 1.7 and so on and so forth. So it's 100% of the pie. And then what does it equate into dollars? You take the 13,045, multiply it by the percent. There are the dollars right there. Now this tax rate here, this is always the fun one. This is the tax rate each individual town pays. And if you think about it intuitively, it actually makes sense. And I know tax rates are always fun here. So if this is the overall tax rate here, every town that's under 100, their tax rate's going to be a little bit higher to get them up to that market value. So 99% is going to be slightly higher than that 19.28, so they're at 19.48. 46%, it's going to be much higher, the tax rate, so 41. So that brings it up to that market value. Eden, 67% of 100, brings it to 28. And finally, Evans and North Collins, exactly right on, they're 19.28. Now, by doing that, everybody is paying the exact same market share value. So that's why some tax rates are higher in some towns than in other towns. Now, I actually have a little example just to show you here. Okay. This right here, to make it real simple. Here's basically what the state is saying. Assessed value, market value. Assessed value here, equalization rate's 99, it's just slightly undervalued. It should be 100. So $46,000, again, way undervalued, 46%, but if we're going to bring it back up to 100. What I want to do is I want to show you this as to what the taxes are actually going to be, or what does this actually mean. Let me just page down here. Okay, what does this mean in our taxes? Right here, and I'll try and make this a little smaller. See, no, there, can everyone see that? Okay, so using that equalization rate, everyone, even though their individual tax rates here are a little bit higher, but when you take it in conjunction with the equalization rate, everyone's tax bill ends up being the same. So if you were looking in Boston at a home that had an assessed value exactly at $99,000, exactly, they would be paying a tax bill of $1,928. If you were to find a home in Concord exactly with an assessed value at $46,000, they'd be paying this same tax bill of $1,928. And so forth. In Eden, a home exactly with an assessed value of $67, their tax bill would be $1,928. Now, in reality, are we ever going to see someone in Eden exactly with an assessed value of $67? Probably not. Okay, so what we can do here is I can tell you what the tax bills are going to be based on a real assessment. So does anyone want to give me an example of their town and their assessment? I'll tell you what the tax bill would be. Or I can give examples. Want me to do an example instead?
Okay.
Paul?
110 Eden.
In Eden?
110.
So 110 at .67. The state is saying your home, in reality, is really worth $164,000.
That's good news.
There you go.
Is the state gonna come in, is the state gonna come in and buy my house?
So what they do is with your assessed value of 110, your tax rate's a little higher, basically to bring you up to that 164, is really what it is. So your taxes, when all is said and done, 3166.
That's what he's going to pay this year?
That's what he would pay this year.
Yeah, it's slightly
For
up
school
from last-
taxes,
yeah,
for
yeah.
school taxes.
I understand.
Now, let's take that example of someone in Concord. Let's say their value is also, their assessed value is the same, 110,000. Look at that. They're way under assessed. The state says their home really should be worth, across the state, $239,000. So their tax rate is much higher to bring them up to that level, basically. So if you take a look down, their taxes are much higher than yours, because everyone's paying their fair share, according to what the state says.
I've heard that.
So it's a lot of fun. I mean, in essence...
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
He loves his job. Okay.
But this honestly is one of the biggest questions and complaints that people actually have. Why are my taxes higher? If the tax rate is 19.28, why is my tax rate higher? That's why, because the state's saying, we're bringing you up to the level to make it a playing field.
So, Tom, can I just ask a question in here that I asked you earlier, because we were practicing on this one?
Sure.
So why does it to town do true assessment at 100% then?
What I can say is this: the state has said for school taxes, and I'm not going to say individual, all the other taxes, but for state school taxes, all schools will be treated fairly. And we needed some measurement across the state for all schools. They've chosen market value.
So that they didn't leave it to a local decision?
Correct. So,
How do they determine the market value?
okay, that's like that's like the wizard behind the screen there. No one knows that. So
I mean, I would love to get the market, they say my house is worth, I would love to get that price for it.
I know.
But
I absolutely, I
argue
could,
with the assessor, and what is he going to do, lower your assessment?
he could lower your assessment, absolutely.
Nobody did that 2 years ago.
We have two right now.
Nobody argued.
No, we actually have like 4 right now.
4 now?
So to answer your question, I have no clue. So that market value that the state actually sets, they send us that formula, how they determine across the state what town is what, I couldn't even tell
Say
you.
that we're, valuing our homes at 67% less,
North Collins, Michigan.
That you're undervalued.
Yeah.
That you're undervalued.
3% less than.
So that same example between Concord and Enid, that really kind of show you there? All right, so going back to the presentation on there, so that's just basically a summary. There are the tax rates for each individual towns. When each individual town gets their bill, they're going to see that tax rate. Boston will see a tax rate of 19.48 on their bill. Concord will see a tax rate of 41.92. And I'm sure a lot of people from Concord will be calling me saying, how could you set the tax rate that high in Concord? Nothing to do with it. But I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of calls from there because theirs is high in comparison to some other towns. Eden, 28.78, and then Evans and North Collins, which state was right on at the 19.28.
So basically, you're going to have the same conversation with people who call? So
I would say for anyone, number one, I'd have it over the phone, but if they still have questions to come on in, I'm happy to answer any questions. Any questions here?
I think I'll get it next year.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You start saving your pennies now. You know
I'm
what
just
your
waiting for the
taxes are gonna
state to
be.
come in and buy my house.
But it'll be another State Department who won't follow the...
No.
Good point.
They'll have a different calculation.
Approved tax warrant, that the Board of Education approve the tax warrant for the 2013-14 school year in the amount of $13,445,189.
Second.
Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Approved transportation audit, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, an audit of the Transportation Department by Carrie Turner, Director of Transportation at Silver Creek Central School District, be approved at a rate of $50 per hour for 40 hours, not to exceed $3,000 maximum. Second.
Discussion?
Now, her contract does show $2,000, and we set the maximum at $3,000, not to exceed it.
she's the Director of Transportation for Silver Creek.
Correct.
So we just contacted her and asked her to do this audit?
I can back up for you. You ask great questions, Patty. So basically, when I came in, one of the conversations that I had with the board is that it's very likely that coming in, because there's been different leadership along the way, that doing some audits in different departments was good. It's good for the board to get some outside opinion with people who actually know more than I do, in this case, the Transportation Department. Carrie came highly recommended by our district superintendent, David O'Rourke, who said that she has been contracted out by other school districts to do exactly the same thing. And so as an outside person, not really being vested in our school district, she comes in, takes a look at the quality of our fleet, the health of our buses, talks to people within the department just to find out, what are the protocols, what are the practices, what do you do about safety, what does your transportation handbook look like, and just checks the whole thing out. And then comes to Tom, who basically undersees, if that's the right word, the transportation department, to say, it looks great here, looks good here, these would be my recommendations to you. She doesn't make any decisions for us, she just makes recommendations. And so Tom is the one working directly with her.
Any other questions?
No other discussions?
How much time does she expect to take? Like, is it 6 weeks or?
I believe,
2
without
months?
looking at it, I thought it was like 40 hours is what she anticipated, 40
But
hours.
over how much, like 1 week? Or-
Oh, no, it could be a couple weeks.
Okay,
She wants to see a progression.
yeah. Like maybe within a month times?
If she's looking to see how
mean-
fast our fleet gets up and running in September and gets our kids in on time, then she might wait a little longer.
The reason why I'm asking is because it's so jumbled the first couple weeks. There's
Correct.
so many,
She might want to see that, too.
okay.
And given the fact that, she does this on a full-time basis, I'm going to assume she knows the best times actually
Okay.
of which to look at it.
Plus, she still has to do her responsibilities at her district.
That's right,
Oh, okay.
that's right.
And where does the money come to pay for her?
We are actually taking that out of the GLP study, which we had talked about previously, so we're not going to be doing that most likely this year, so the money's come directly from there.
Okay.
Any other discussions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Just from GLP, I don't know. See, saw her have a heart attack over there.
Future dates, regular Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, August 21st, 2013. 7?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock here?
Yes, I'm sorry. It is here at 7 o'clock, and, sorry?
Oh, nothing.
No, it's just a regular third Wednesday of the month board
Yeah, we've
meeting, so
moved
that's
to
the
Wednesdays now,
21st.
so.
It's possible that what you're thinking of is the goal-setting meeting that was going to be tonight, but because we're missing 2 players, we moved that to the 28th of August. So that's the week following, and that is strictly a workshop with the Board of Education. It's not a public session. That is a workshop for us to do goal-setting. So this is at 7 here, and it's a big agenda.
And the 28th is at 6?
6 to 9 on the 28th for a goal setting with the board.
It's 7, right?
Okay.
Adjourn.
Any other discussions?
Kathy, how'd you do? Thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Do I have to end the session? Okay. Motion to end the session,
Second.
to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming.